welcome traders to our midweek technical analysis video. So jumping straight into things here from where the market opened up. Obviously we have spoken about this in our start of week technical analysis, but we will just go over it. So as you can see, this is the initial candlestick that opened up the market on Sunday at 10 p.m. GMT. You can see that the market originally opened up bullish before we then saw a sharp bearish drop, testing on this same rough area of support of around 4,048. Price ended up stopping at this level in terms of bearish momentum, and then we sort of saw the buyers take control. We saw, just as the London session began, we saw price break through this sort of common support area. As you can see, price has tested in and around this level multiple times as a support and resistance, so definitely a key level for us to take into consideration, and that's what we did at around 4,058. We then saw that break just sort of on that first hour of that London session, and then from there we saw continued bullish momentum all the way through until the early hours of Tuesday morning. Then throughout the Asian session on Tuesday, we saw some sellers step back into the market as the buying volume had slowed down, and we saw price see this bearish drop where price dropped down to around 4,115. From there, price continued to consolidate throughout the London and New York session until we then saw a break in the next Asian session on Wednesday, where we saw a break of structure of these highs that originally formed that initial resistance after this bullish push, and price has pushed to test this level of 4,170, which is a key pivotal point for gold. One thing I do want to do is I want to zoom out and just drag these levels across. And we will see something very, very interesting. So you can see that where price actually dropped down to and eventually found support and sort of stopped that bearish momentum was in this point of interest that we had marked in here, which I understand was our point of control that we established in one of our last videos. Also, this area here, which is our value area high, again from our fixed range volume profile that we established using our again fixed range volume profile in one of our last videos, and you can see that that is the sort of lower time frame level of support, and that was sort of that significant level that we wanted to take into consideration once we saw price move away from this initial level of 4,115. And like I said, you saw price push up to this level of 4,170. The reason why this level is an interesting level is because you can see that price initially, before we saw these new all-time highs created, we saw price create this all-time high here, test as a resistance, break back down, and then we saw that break of structure, giving us a break and retest pattern on a previous all-time high while the market was in that enormous bull run. It definitely gives us some sort of psychological price slash level for us to then take into account for future market references. And as you can see, we are now seeing price push towards this level and reject off of it. If I go to our lower time frames, you can see that rejection a little bit more in detail. You can see that price is forming at a resistance at this point. For example, here you can see that price has reached this level just below it and tested almost 3-4 times now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here on out. But with that being said, let's sort of go over what we could expect to see for the rest of the week. So obviously we're seeing that bullish momentum since the London session on Monday, so pretty much start of week. We have seen bullish momentum, price carrying itself up. Obviously this high that was reached at around 4,150 was that first point of sort of a higher high and higher low formation taken shape. As you can see, we created our higher high and then our higher low. However, instead of creating a next higher high and higher low, we didn't see that. We saw continued consolidation, and then we have now finally seen our break and retest pattern. When I say break and retest pattern, I mean we see a break of these levels here, right here. So we see our break, and then we see that retest as support on previous resistance. So you can see that price has given us a break and retest pattern on the higher time frame of the hourly as well, indicating to us that we are going to see continued bullish momentum from this level. So with that being said, we are going to expect, and we are going to put our overall bias as bullish. What we will expect to see, we'll drag one of these levels across here just so we sort of have this like psychological ceiling if we do see price break through this level here. So what we're expecting to see is price originally push back into this point of interest here, break through these last highs. If we see price break through these last highs here, where you can see this exhausted wicks, where the sellers have managed to take control before the hour has closed, we're going to expect to see price push somewhere to around 4,175. once price pushes into this level, it's just going to be a matter of whether price continues and pushes to our next level around 4,200, or price tests at this level as a resistance and then drops back down to around 4,145. So a couple moves that could take place, but I think going off of the current price action that we are seeing, along with some volume and some news that is taking place, we will definitely expect some continued bullish momentum. I think price will at least see 4,200 before the end of the week. However, it is sort of detrimental as to what happens in the area where price is now. Obviously, if we see price come back up to this level of around 4,170, test as a resistance, and then we see a bearish drop potentially down to 4,130 or 4,115, then I don't think we'll see that 4,200 level hit this week. But if we see price break these highs in the next hour or so, sort of before that New York session kicks in at around 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. GMT that is, we will then expect to see price completely fly up, and we could even see sort of the level of 4,218, sort of 1518 hit. But it all sort of depends what happens in this next hour or so. As you can see, this hour has been slightly violent. Let's just sort of go to our hour 1 minute just so you can really see it in detail. We are, where are we? We are in the 9 o'clock hour. So this is, let me just mark this in for you so you can just see what I'm looking at. There you go. So that is this hour so far. So you can see that price originally opened up bullish. We then saw bear step into the market. We then saw buyer step back into the market, and then we're seeing some bearish momentum now as price has found a very low resistance point. So the main thing that we're going to be looking at is these lower time frame levels. So obviously we need that level to be broken through. We have a somewhat of a support potential here. We have low resting liquidity below these lows and this low, so we could see price sweep those levels. We have resting liquidity above these highs, like such. So there's a couple potentials that we could see. Or this is obviously our minute one. We could see price drop back down to around 4,160 before price pushes back up. As you can see, it's sort of an even battle between the buyers and sellers right now. You've seen that initial push, sellers took control, buyers took control, and then it looks like sellers are trying to take control now. So yeah, there's some things that we want to take into consideration, but I think it's just going to matter what happens on this next hour or two before the New York session. We'll sort of be able to reestablish if we see bullish momentum or we see bullish candlesticks, and if we see a candlestick sort of finish anywhere above the level of around, if we see 4,166, a candlestick finish in that area, then we will probably see that bullish momentum. But until then, we need to sort of see what happens with price at this level. So that's going to be our midweek technical analysis video. As always, I hope you've all enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you in our post-week market review. Peace.